Hey guys, welcome back to another snazzy video, and well, today is going to be an interesting one. So as many of you guys know, President Trump on July 26th tweeted out a ban on transgender individuals in the military. His tweets reading, "After consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the United States military. Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming victory and cannot be burdened with the tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail. Thank you." So as you can imagine, this also made a huge shitstorm all over the internet, and I had woken up to these tweets and tweets asking me about my opinion on the ban in general. And as I was planning to do a video on transgender people in the military in the first place this week, it actually seemed like rather nice timing to talk about this as well, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. But before I actually get into my opinion, I wanted to talk about some of the other stuff that had happened the day following these tweets and some of the information I found while researching. So I would like to focus on that first tweet that President Trump put out, and that he says that he met with his generals and military experts to discuss the topic. However, it's come to light that Secretary Mattis was actually on vacation when this came out and has apparently become appalled in how Trump actually did this. Another thing that's come to light is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dunford, has actually sent out a memo regarding the issue as well. It reads, "There will be no modifications to the current policy until the President's direction has been received by the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary has issued implementation guidance. In the meantime, we will continue to treat all of our personnel with respect. As importantly, given the current fight and the challenges we face, we will remain focused on accomplishing our assigned missions." So as of recording this video, there is no official ban on transgender individuals serving the armed forces. However, that is subject to change in the upcoming days, weeks, or months, but we will just have to stand and see for that for now. Since the President's tweets, Senator John McCain of Arizona has actually issued a statement as well. The President's tweets this morning regarding transgender Americans in the military is yet another example of why The President's tweets this morning regarding transgender Americans in the military is yet another example of why major policy announcements should not be made via Twitter. The statement was unclear. The Department of Defense was already decided to allow current serving transgender individuals to stay in the military, and many are serving it honorably today. Any American who meets the current medical and readiness standards should be allowed to continue serving. There is no reason to force service members who are able to fight, train, and deploy to leave the military, regardless of their gender identity. We should all be guided by the principle that any American who wants to serve our country and is able to meet those standards should have the opportunity to do so, and should be treated as the patriots they are. The Department of Defense is currently conducting a study on the medical obligations it would incur, the impact of military readiness, and related questions associated with the accession of transgender individuals who are not currently serving in uniform and wish to join the military. I do not believe that any new policy decision is appropriate until the study is complete and thoroughly reviewed by the Secretary of Defense, our military leadership, and Congress. The Senate Armed Forces Committee will continue to follow closely and conduct oversight on the issue of transgender individuals serving in the military." So what does that mean for current serving transgender individuals? Well, there's a little bit of uncertainty there. It's possible that the policy could change eventually given guidance by the Secretary of Defense from President Trump. However, until then, they are able to continue serving as the trans ban is not official. When this ban was implemented, I went to Facebook to ask my military brothers what they thought about transgender people in the military. And the three most prevailing arguments I found for not allowing trans people in the military were the medical dependency of those in mid-transition, the idea that some of them might be harassed while in the military and not be able to hack it due to that harassment, and also the possible effect it had on the lethality and the readiness of the military in general. Now, the strongest argument I believe for not allowing transgender people to serve in the military, and which I actually agree with, is the medical dependency mid-transition transgender people would actually have while serving in the military while on HRT. And a transgender person on the Blaze actually said it best in my opinion, that we're no better than asthmatics and we're no better than diabetics. We are medically dependent, and for that reason we should be disqualified. While I find the medical dependency point to be a strong argument against trans service, it was brought to my attention that there are other countries that do permit trans service in some form. Those countries being Australia, Austria, Belgium, Bolivia, Canada, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Israel, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, Spain, and the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom one was actually brought to my attention by a Marine friend that told me about the transgender Brits that were actually on the same bases as while we were in Afghanistan. Another interesting point is that Israel has actually had transgender troops since about 1993 or 1994, and actually gives some stipend to help in transition for transgender troops. Now, a point that's been argued on both sides of the case, and even mentioned by President Trump's tweets, was the medical costs of transgender individuals. On one hand, you have people saying that the transition costs are too much for the government on issues that they shouldn't be paying for. On the other hand, you have people saying that the government's already spending money on other issues and can spare some for transgender people. One of the biggest arguments made by Lacey Green as well was that the government spends about $80 million on Viagra. However, I had to call bullshit on this, not for the pricing, but because of the fact that The reason why the government spends so much money on Viagra is that 85% of combat veterans with PTSD actually suffer from erectile dysfunction. And the trauma that they've endured to get that PTSD, I believe that we, the people, and the government can push out some money for them. Something interesting I found while researching for this video was a study done back in 2013 that I found that the number of vets that transitioned after service had actually doubled since 1983. However, the study had also shown that the risk of suicide for transgender vets was actually exorbitantly high as well. Another argument I've seen also against trans service is the downtime that the person may have due to transition surgery that they would have mid-service. However, it's a little bit funny to me because coming from the service myself and seeing how the medical actually works for troops, it is absolute ass, and I do not believe that the downtime will be that significant, as duty usually comes first. To put it a little bit in more perspective, I had a friend that was thought to have had cancer while in the Marine Corps. Now, instead of allowing him to receive treatment, the Marine Corps forced him to go to the range, go hike to the field, and deploy him. He wasn't able to actually find medical help until after we had moved units and we were getting ready to get out of the Marine Corps. Also, interestingly enough, my old scholar actually linked me an article from crack.com that actually talked about this as well. So despite all of this, what is my actual opinion on this? Well, my opinion splits between two different scenarios. That first scenario being if the military decides to allow troops to be mid-transition coming in or to be transitioned while in service. That first scenario being if they allow transgender people to come in mid-transition or transition during time of service. And I am in agreement in that I don't believe the military should have to pay for a transition. The reason I believe this is because it is not a military-related issue that they're paying for, but rather a pre-existing issue that they are taking responsibility for. And that could be argument enough for not allowing transgender people to join in the first place. However, it is a little bit of a gray area for me, and I can argue both sides. Now, the second scenario being that they will not allow people to transition before or during. And now the second scenario being they will not allow people to transition before or during, but if you have gender dysphoria or have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, they will still allow you into service. I actually full-heartedly believe that a person diagnosed with gender dysphoria could be allowed to serve. As I've mentioned before, the mental aspects of gender dysphoria do not prevent combat effectiveness on the battlefield, as is evidenced by those who have done it before. Overall, it's a really complicated issue with both sides having compelling arguments. I personally believe that some form of service should be allowed to transgender individuals. What that level of transgender transition should be, I cannot tell you. However, I will say if the lethality of the military is brought down because of transgender individuals being integrated into the military, then I will argue that transgender people should not be integrated, as the military's job is to kill our enemies. And if transgender integration costs that, then they should not be in. But that's my opinion on the matter, and as always, I want to hear your guys' opinions down below. And I never asked this, however, I am going to ask this today. If you guys could please share this video so that as many people can join in on the discussion as humanly possible, as I find this discussion to be really interesting. I want to hear as many opinions as humanly possible as well. But that is it for today, guys. I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!